It's DJ and Brant, and obviously I'm the Brant guy, but that's DJ right there. How you doing there, DJ?
Oh, DJ is really delightful today. How are you, Brent?
DJ's delightful. It's delightful DJ day, and
Did you know my last name used to be Day? And I loved it because they'd say, "Oh, it's a beautiful day out. Thank you very much."
hey, or I fear
I love,
they'd call you Oh Happy Day. Oh Happy
yeah,
Day.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, our dog Dixie had puppies, and we had Dennis Day and Doris Day were two of the pups. So,
Hey. Well, there you go. There you go. Well, we were talking about being alive and funeral home.
because it's on our list today, we have it right here on our to-do list. Be,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Be alive. Live today. Smile today. Be sure and breathe. You know, it's interesting. You don't have to remind yourself to breathe, at least right now. And I guess they have machines that help you breathe.
In case
But
you forget, yeah.
it's a lot of things we take for granted. I've seen people vicariously walk through life and kind of waste their life, and you ask them, how you doing? Oh, just waiting to die. Then you see other people who would give anything just to be able to breathe normal, you know, and they're not waiting to die, they're wanting to live. So I
Mm.
hope you're living a day and that you seize life. Carpe diem, seize the day. Or as my old friend Kevin would say, carpe carpet, seize the carpet. Not really sure why he would say that, but seize the day, carpe diem. And
Was he short like me and then he could just see it better?
yeah, I'll just see it, see the day,
Yeah. See the carpet.
see the carpet, not
Yeah.
seize the day or seize the carpet, but see the carpet. Yeah.
Yeah. Or
Well,
see
I had an
yourself.
incident with my son's bed rail walking through the room where I wish I could have seed the carpet, and I almost took a tumble there. Pretty funny, but anyway, it's all right. Well, DJ, hey, what you got? You got a lot.
Yeah. Got lots of things going on. Of course, this week we have our Welcome Partner Networking Breakfast.
Mhm. Yeah,
Everybody that's getting honored this time, they all know about it ahead of time, which is very rare because usually I like to pull surprises. But we're honoring Assistant Police Chief Ken Funtek,
yeah.
and he's been with the department many years and done a lot of training and assisting and friendships there. Then we're honoring the Children's Miracle Network. It's our nonprofit of the month. We are honoring uh, brides. It's a Amarillo store for brides, weddings and formal wear. And Daniela Kelly is the owner, and she's going to retire soon. And she's done so many nice things for the community. She's being honored for that. And then one that's very special to us is Shelley Thompson has been the owner for about the last 8 years of Edible Arrangements franchise here. And she bought it from Merle and Corliss Metcalf, who had it before her. And they started a tradition through Welcome Partner that we would surprise somebody almost every month. Well, we
Good.
do it every month, but mostly it's a surprise. And so she's selling the store. It's already sold, and the paperwork will be final on June the 1st. And so I talked to her about, maybe the new owner being interested in doing it, and she just didn't think that he would have time with.
Mhm.
He has a lot of other businesses, and so I mentioned it to one of our clients, Santa Fe Credit Union, and Serena said, "Oh, well, has Shelley ever been honored?" And I said, "Well, no, that'd be kind of dumb, for her to say, 'Dear Shelley, I love me. Here's your arrangement that you had to cut and fix.'" And so she laughed about that. And she said, "Well, we ought to honor her." And so the last Edible Arrangements Random Act of Kindness is being handed over to Santa Fe Credit Union. They're going to sponsor it from now on.
Oh,
And
good.
they're honoring her. And Shelley has been battling cancer for the last year. And so
Yes.
this is even it's more significant that we get to honor her. And her courage that she's had and her courage that she does have. So that's just a little bit of what we're doing
Yeah.
on. And then next week is Business Connection at the Civic Center. We'll have our booth there in the North Exhibit Hall. And then that weekend is Memorial Day weekend. So
Wow.
that's just a snippet of it. But we just had Mother's Day.
Yeah, right, right.
And I wrote on the e-blast last week about how Maureen O'Hara, the movie star, and I are connected, kind of.
Well, let's hear about that. How are you connected?
Well, my mother left us. She abandoned the family. She didn't depart to heaven or anything, but she probably thought she was. She ran off with an airman at the air base here in Amarillo whenever I was 2.5 and my brother was 6.5. And she took the dog and she took clothes and left us with a babysitter. And the babysitter wasn't expecting to have to work another shift. So anyway, both my parents were working nights, and so mother left town. Anyhow, so mother and daddy have been fighting really violently for a long time, and people knew it. And so when she starts missing, they're thinking, well, maybe he just shut her up for good, you know. And we had a little pond in the backyard that the builder had put in. And Dad was thinking, well, he probably knew I always fall down a lot. So he probably thought I was going to do that and hurt myself in the backyard. So when he got home from work after Mother was missing, he went out. It was about 6 o'clock in the morning, and it was summertime, and he was out there with a shovel covering up the pond. Well, the neighbor was looking out her back window, and she saw Dad out there with a shovel, so she called the police and said, "I think Mrs. Harmon might be missing down there." So Dad had taken some whiskey and gone to bed, and the police are banging on the front door, and it says day sleeper, which means you're not supposed to disturb them. And so Dad was in a bad mood. He went to the door and they said, "We understand you buried something in the backyard." And they made him go out there and dig it up. Nowadays, the cops would dig it up. But anyway, so they found out Mother was not in the dirt, and Dad took more whiskey and went back to bed. So anyway, Mother is missing. We don't know where she is, and I'm with a lot of different babysitters. So my granddaddy, her dad, said that if she was going to show up, she would show up around Christmas, that's when they would hear from her because that's her favorite time of the year. But he put out some award money for her being found. Well, in the meantime, my brother, he was my half brother, he went back to live with his dad and stepmom and stepbrothers, and it was a great family, really. And then I was passed around from family to family here in Amarillo. Well, then I got to move back in with Dad when I was 5, and he never would tell me what to say when people would Mother. He said, "We just don't talk about that." And that's the way that generation was. And so I didn't know. And I've got a good imagination and stuff. So anyway, I just make up stuff. You know, people say, "Well, where's your mommy?" And I'd say, "Oh, she broke her back," or you know, I just make up stuff. So over the years, the things that Daddy told me about my mother, I knew that my mother's name was Maureen. I knew that she was Irish. I knew she had red hair. I knew that she lived in California. And Daddy said, "When you're old enough, I will show you the newspaper clippings about your mother." Who is that? That's Maureen O'Hara, the movie star, right? Because everybody knows that if you live in Texas, you're a cowboy. If you live in California, you're a movie star. Everybody knows that. It's a fact. I read it on the internet. Anyway, so I was at a movie where Maureen O'Hara was on the screen, and I looked up at her, and that was when it dawned on me who she was, that she was my mother. And I started crying, and I thought, no wonder you had to leave us. You had to go to Hollywood and make these movies for us. And I thought, what a wonderful woman she was to do that. Warped brain, right? Anyway, I finally met my mother. My aunt her sister set it up so that I could meet my mother because she felt like it was time that I get to know who spawned me. And we went to the old Herring Hotel, and a lot of people are familiar with that building. And it used to be the place. I mean, Elvis stayed there. All the movie stars, when they come to perform in Amarillo, that's where they'd stay. And so, mother and her fifth husband, Mac, I called him Mac the fifth, and they came into the ballroom, and I'm sitting at the piano, and so I stood up, and I hear, and I'm so smug because I know it's Maureen O'Hara I'm going to get to meet that day. And this old drunk lady she's running over at me wearing a fake fur coat, calling me her baby. And of course, it wasn't Maureen O'Hara, it was Maureen McDonald. And but for a long time I thought that that would be my mother. And so anyway, that's how I'm kind of connected to her. And whenever my daughter was 2.5, same age I was when mother left, I wrote a letter to my mother and I asked her, how could you leave? How could you leave a baby that's 2.5 years old? They're so sweet. And then I wrote Maureen O'Hara and I told her the story of how I always thought she was my mother. And I sent it certified mail, so at least I got her autograph, and that's all I got out of the deal. So anyway, but I thought it was cool that my mother might be Maureen O'Hara, the movie star. Are you there? Are you still awake? I had other imagination things too. I used to bury money in the
Yeah.
sandbox, thinking that a pirate would rescue me.
Wow. Well, you know what? We make it. We make it. We're still standing. We're still alive. And
Yeah.
I'm still laughing about some of the stuff we were going to talk about with the funerals and funeral homes and such. I have a little joke to kind of lighten the mood. That's okay.
Yeah, I thought, to me the story's funny because
It is funny.
I was there, and I look back in retrospect and I think my guardian angel must have been going like this.
Yeah.
Poor
Yeah.
little
I
guy.
think my guardian angel needs a vacation. I
Amen.
know I
Amen.
do.
Yeah, wearing your guardian angel out.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
What were you going to tell me, Brent Fricker?
Well, the sweet lady, her husband passed, and she went to the funeral home, and she said, I don't want to cause a fuss, but there were a couple of caskets that were open, different parts of the room. She said, but my husband is there, and that gentleman has on his suit that I bought him. And the funeral director was very apologetic and said, oh, I'm sorry, man. We'll make it right. We promise we'll make it right. So they walked her out the door, and then the funeral director told his assistant, hey, Tommy, let's switch the heads on 3 and 4. And
Oh, oh,
terrible.
yeah.
But
Oh,
a real life story. I went to this funeral of this precious, precious elderly man, and I didn't know the backstory, but they were very careful to have like a very detailed line through the procession, and uh, each of us who went through the line were supposed to reach into his pocket and pull out candy, and yeah, and so go on, no, it's okay, it's okay, now go on, so I reached into the deceased man's pocket and took some candy, and kind of find out that's what he loved to do. He loved to give children candy, but I don't know if he put in his will that he wanted to do that after his life, but just one of those moments, to ponder. I'm watching your face there.
I'm not saying what I'm thinking. I'm making you proud today, Brent Fricker.
Well, you are a comedian, so I bet you would have a good line about that.
I
I'm
did.
not going to hear it. I mean,
I'll tell you later. I'll tell you later. Um, There was a
that could be a good, pickup line, maybe. Hey, reach in my pocket. I've got candy for you. I don't know, but hey, look. If you ever see that happen at my funeral, know that I didn't plan it. Okay, so no shame, no blame. But yeah, count me out of that. But anyway, it was a very sentimental thing. I've just never experienced that before or since in my life, and
well, me neither. So I don't have to. Through your experience, I've lived it. I don't have to do that. Okay.
oh,
Another story that I had on the e-blast last week
uh,
was kind of cool because and it's just really funny how stories from your past will kind of several people bring them up at the same time. And I think it was in like 1993, 94, something like that. Patricia was about 9, so it might have been earlier than that. But we had a baseball team here at the old Potter County Stadium, and it was called the Amarillo Texans. Mike Moore was the owner. And I liked Mike. And so he said, well, why don't you be our organist for the ball games? Well, to me, baseball is very boring. I like basketball because bump and you're done, and
how's that go again?
bump and you're done.
Okay, I'm sorry.
So anyway, on a week, um, usually on Saturdays or Sundays, they'd have double headers. And I had paperwork. I was still doing welcome partner. I mean, to make a living, I was doing all kinds of things, during the week to make a living for myself and my kid. So anyway, I would take my paperwork out to the ball team, and then to get up to the press box, it was a slanted roof. And it was kind of dangerous to get up there, but we all did it because that's where everybody broadcast from and everything. Well, the organist had to sit close to the window so that we could see what was going on in the field. It takes 2 hours, for them to, get everything done. And then that's the end of that inning. And then you do another inning and all that. So I was kind of doing my paperwork, but I would listen to the crowd and I'd look out there to see whatever was going on. Well, there was a call and you could hear the crowd booing the umpires. And I thought, hey, I got a cool song for that. And I played Three Blind Mice. And the audience loved it, and they were clapping and everything. And I thought, I did something good. I did it because I'm not into sports that much. And I thought I pulled a goodie. And Patricia, she's not one to ever sit down and behave. She was one of those that she loved running around the stands and getting to know everybody. And so Mike Moore comes up. We're still in the first heading, or it's a double header, so it was the first heads. Not like your well, anyway. So Mike Moore comes up and he says, DJ. And I said, yes, sir. And he said, you need to go home. And I said, has Patricia hurt herself or somebody else? And he said, oh, no, she's fine. She's running around. He said, but you need to go home. And I said, why do I need to go home? And he said, well, because the umpires just kicked you out of the game.
Oh, no.
I said, what? Because I wasn't playing in the game. I was up there in the press box. And he said, no.
I didn't know they could do that.
I didn't either, but I found out they can. And so he said, you played Three Blind Mice, and that was criticizing their call.
Oh,
they're throwing you
out. They took it personally.
So I was embarrassed. I was hurt. I was ashamed.
Oh.
I left and I grabbed my paperwork, got Patricia, and we left. Well, it was about 2 years later, and I was with a friend of mine, Jack Barnes. A lot of people will remember Jack. He was involved a lot in military awards and all of that. Anyway, Jack took me over to meet his friend, Mike. And Mike was from Amarillo, but he was visiting from San Francisco, and Jack introduced me. And he said, Steuben, he said, "Did you ever play baseball or play the organ for the Amarillo Texans?" And I said, "Yeah." And he said, "And you got thrown out of the ball game for playing Three Blind Mice?" And I said, "Yeah." And he said, "You're famous." And I said, "I am." And he said, "Yeah." He said, "I was living in San Francisco." At the front page of the San Francisco Times sports section.
Uh-huh.
They had the article about how the umpires had thrown you out of the game. And I said,
You
"Wow,
organ rebel.
yeah, that's me. I'm always causing trouble."
You're
So
you're causing trouble with your organ. You shouldn't do that.
we're not going to go there. And we're not going to talk about candy in your pocket. Okay. Anyway, so it was just really weird. So I mentioned it to Jimmy Swicegood, and he oversees our fish tank. And
Uh-huh.
he the other day, he was fixing one of the pumps, and so I said, "Hey, I just got through writing about the baseball and how I got kicked out of the game because I remember when you were a little boy with your dad, you were in the game, you were at the game that day." And Jimmy said, "Yeah, I just think it's so cool. I know you, and that you're the one that got thrown out for playing Three Blind Mice." And he said, "It was really something. All the people that went, they swarmed the field when you got kicked out."
Really?
That's what I said. I said, "Really?"
You
And
missed that.
he said, "You didn't know that?" And I said,
You've
"No,
been as
I got kicked out of the game. How was I going to know what happened? I thought everybody hated me."
Lily,
And yeah, and of course they called me back. I was playing the next week, but I didn't play Three Blind Mice.
urban legend. Were you escorted out by security, or do you just walk out?
No, just the Hall of Shame. I was so embarrassed, and I thought I was doing something to make people happy.
Well, you made
I
some people
did.
happy.
I made the fans happy, but
You made the
I
opposing team happy.
yeah, and I want everybody to love me, and so that hurt my feelings. But it made me feel good when Jimmy said, "Yeah," he said, "a lot of people just went out on the field, and they were giving heck to the umpires for kicking you out." I guess
Ooh.
they announced it because how would everybody know? I mean, the sound of silence. So anyway, that was the other story that,
Hello, umpire, my old friend. This is another thing you and I have in common. I was playing the organ sound for the Dallas Stars hockey team
wow.
in 2012. Yeah. And so yeah. And if I made a mistake, 15,000 people heard it. And if you were ever watching the Dallas Stars, folks, during 2012, you would have heard Aerosmith and Bon Jovi and all kinds of artists on the organ playing behind the ESPN interviews of the
Wow.
hockey players. Yeah,
And you.
that was me. Yeah,
Wow.
but I think they burned it after
Did you ever get thrown out?
I never got thrown out. I never got thrown out. Of course, it was well, I think it was their keyboard. I think yeah, had a good organ sound to it. And anyway,
You know,
anywho,
you are you play music beautifully. And
thank you.
last week at the gathering, you always play the music for that. And Marie sings along with you. And it's really neat because you can tell it's not rehearsed. Y'all just kind of jump into whatever you're doing.
Yeah,
And you changed up, you changed your tune a bit. And I renamed a song that you played because it's
really.
one that I love, and I don't think I have the music to, and I play partially by ear, but it's This Little Light of Mine. It's what you were playing.
Oh yeah,
But
kind of a fun
I
jazzed
leaned
up. Yeah.
over. Listen to me. I leaned over while you were playing that, and your style on that, I loved it because, and I could never play it that way. But I leaned over to Mert, who was with me, and I said, "I'm going to rename that song." I said, "It's This Little Light of Mine Boogie."
There you go.
That's what you were doing. And oh, it was so cool. You had everybody clapping. Nobody got thrown out. So yay.
Well, that's all right. Yeah, nobody escorted you out. I wouldn't throw you out. God wouldn't throw you out. And but we were having fun, gosh, almost 30 years ago. I would a lot of people don't know this about hymns, church hymns. They're sacred. Well, they are, but a lot of people don't understand that a lot of those hymns were converted bar songs from the Salvation Army, from William Booth. And yeah, no, I'm sorry, that was George Williams. George Williams. And so to reach people, with the gospel in those days, they would take bar songs and change the name.
Yeah.
And change the words to them. Not all of them, but a lot of those famous ones were bar songs. Well, so here I am, fast forward, to the 80s, 90s, and 2000s. People, especially the older generation, really loved it when I did the hymns, and they really loved it when I jazzed them up. And it was funny because the older folks would say, "Hey, I know that hymn," right? Because they're so much more rich. They're not one phrase 1,000 times over and over and over again. There was a lot of theological depth in those hymns. And I knew that at an early age. So I would jazz them up and people would love them, but the young kids would be like, cool new song. And the older folks were like, hey, I love, but they would always tell me, quote unquote, Brent, we love it when you do those Salvation Army songs. And we would take Victory in Jesus and I'll Fly Away and Power in the Blood. And we dun, 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 and of course, Marie, who's a beautiful Black sister. If you've ever gone to a Black church, boy, you want to hear singing and worship. Oh my gosh. No one can rival a Black church. The soul, the beauty, oh my gosh. Wow. And so, anyhow, but yeah, so whenever I have the privilege of having Marie with me, I love doing those because I've got soul. I've always have. They call me Vanilla Soul in college, in high school, but there ain't nothing like the real thing. And Marie comes and sings. Oh, I love it. And boy, does she shine, when she does. But anyway, it's just a lot of fun. But it's interesting how music either brings us together or gets us kicked out of ball teams.
Yeah, that's right. Well, actually, I used to play the devotional music at Amarillo High School.
Hey.
And I had people saying, I love rocking to your music.
Uh-huh.
And they said, you might just slow it down a little bit. And I was just playing what I heard in my head, but it's something else we have in common, and it is so neat. And the gift of music is something God didn't have to give us,
Right.
seeing in full color. We didn't have to get that gift either. So anyway,
Well, hey, we are blessed. Hey, it just goes to show, don't be quick to take offense, folks. Not everything is aimed at you, as the story illustrated there. So there's a lesson.
Actually, that one was, though.
Yeah. Hey, work with me, will you?
I was on their side. Hey, look, I think it's dumb too. I don't know what it had to be.
All right. Well, hey, I love you. We love you, folks. We'll talk to you soon. See you next time.